Skinny from the Deathstars. G'day, Skinny. How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for giving us some time. Everything Destroys You. It's a pretty positive album title, I've got to say. Fifth album from the Deathstars. A long time between drinks. We know COVID had probably a part to do with that, but that was only 3 of the 9 years between albums. So, what have you guys been up to?
Yeah, well, we've never been blamed for being very efficient. We always keep about 5 years in between albums. It is a long process writing a Deathstars album, and also, as I mentioned, we're not the hardest workers like that. When we get into it, we really work. We do. But yeah, with we had almost an album ready to go right before the pandemic. But then we caught some extra time there and wrote a few new tracks, bumped out a few of the old ones, and yeah, then we yeah. In the end, I think it really helped the album that we got some extra time. But yeah, it's been a long time. It's relieving to finally have it here.
Yeah, I bet, man. I bet. I mean, all that time, and you said, you had an album pretty much ready to go. Then you wrote some new stuff during COVID. Does that mean we might have a quick turnaround and a new Death Stars album again in maybe like a year, 18 months, because you've got the stuff sitting there, you got songs you haven't used yet?
No, not really. The songs that are ditched, they are ditched. There might have been a riff or two that, we're hearing on an upcoming album, but we're definitely not gonna let it slide this long in between albums. But it would be stupid to sit here and promise things. Now we have a great album that we're really happy about almost every track, or I would say every track of the album. It is the album we aim to do, and with a great variety. And I think that's what we're focusing on right now. But I know Nightmare has started writing songs already. So
Oh, well, there you go. No rest for the wicked, man. No rest
yeah.
for the wicked. Well, what about living with those songs? The ones that have survived, or even the ones that you wrote, when the pandemic hit, because feels like you've probably had more time to live with those songs, to jam them, to kind of figure out really how those songs want to grow within themselves as well. So, how much rewriting did you do? How much of those songs changed over that time?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I had to re-record the bass 3 times during this period. So I know the songs now.
Very well.
Sometimes it's like one of the old versions pop up. I was like, oh, no, 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 that was the old version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, the songs evolved, and they always do, right into the mixing process. And it always has been like this. This is why it's been very hard for us to finish an album, kind of, because you know that, like, when you put the last vocals down, this is it, so
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we nailed it this time.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously had the album for a couple of days. I've been sitting on that and churning it through, and it feels like there's more keys and more synth in this album, or is it just that they're more to the front?
I would say we always used a lot of synths and keys, but I would say we experimented a lot with the sounds of the keys and the synths. So maybe it stands out more. Maybe we used a lot more strings and classic sounds like that before. While on this album, we used more artificial noises, maybe,
Yeah.
in a way. But for us, it hasn't been a difference really in the process, except from that you try to challenge yourself in finding new sounds. Or
How do you look back at, say, an album like The Perfect Cult, and then think about Everything Destroys You, and you look at the different sound and how much you've changed? How does that feel to you to look back on, and what do you think the big changes are?
well, I think there's a major difference between those two albums. I would say the natural evolution uh, is kind of, we had Termination Bliss and then Night Electric Night, and then we had Perfect Cult was more an introvert album. It was more personal, not as outgoing. While we now jump back up on the previous two albums, it's this album is more of a party album. There's more higher tempos, more rock and roll to it in a way. and that's what we wanted to aim for, because it's yeah, even though I think there are some really strong tracks on the Perfect Cult album, I think that was a harder album for the crowd and for ourselves to grasp, and it was harder to fit into a live set in a way. So yeah, more introvert that album was.
Yeah, yeah. I guess trying to build a set when you got more down tempo songs is quite hard, right?
Yeah, yeah, you always want to go up, right?
Yeah, yeah. Always want to go up. I was going to say, I mean, I've seen you guys referred to as industrial metal, and I'm like, well, saying that the Deathstars are industrial metal is like saying a Corvette Stingray is a car, right? Because it tells you one thing, but doesn't tell you everything. There are so many layers, and I've gone through and listened to this album, and I hear elements of glam. I hear elements of sort of a Manson Rammstein thing, obviously, which you get a lot, but I also hear things like ABBA and stuff like that in there, man, because there's some really big pop hooks. So, I mean, how do you see yourselves? How would you describe yourselves?
Yeah, well, we don't complicate things. I think we're a rock group, but then of course people want to know more, and at one point early in our career, we came up with a word called death glam, and I think it sums it up a little bit. I think there is a little element of glam in there. There is that old past with yeah, with the dark rock or dark metal themes, but definitely we have that's the strength in Deathstars. I think is that we can build a dynamic album with songs that are poppier, or with songs that are heavier, with more guitar riff based, like Angel of Fortune and Crime and stuff like that. And yeah, and then on this album, I think we also managed to squeeze in quite a few faster songs, because we always seem to get stuck in a kind of a mid-tempo field.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easier to write a variety of songs, I think, if you have all these elements. And since we're anyhow in a cross kind of a genre, which it is a crossover genre, so it's yeah, we don't have to play by all the rules in a metal genre, or pull out the swords and dragons, you know.
So true, so true. Yeah, you got a lot of freedom there. I mean, what about your how you guys write? I mean, do you thematically come up, hey, this is going to be the theme of this record? I mean, I know Nightmare has done a lot of the production on this record as well. So, I mean, how do you guys write as a collective?
Nightmare writes most of the music, and Whiplash writes vocals and lyrics. Then the rest of us comes up with riffs or arrangement ideas like that. But we've tried so many times to come up with whole songs and then give it to Nightmare, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He's like, it's great, but I don't know how to work with it, because he doesn't know the foundation of the songs, and it's not written in his way from the, you know, he's like, yeah, it's a great song, but I don't know how can I move this forward. So it's always going to be his baby, you know.
Yeah. So he's like Dr. Frankenstein. You just have to bring him the bits and he sews them together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
He's the Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Now, Cat Casino back with the band as well. He left a while ago. What's it like having him back in the fold?
Yeah, he's an interesting character for sure. He adds a lot. He's you know, we never replaced him while he was gone. We were just going with one guitar, and he's done a lot since that time. He was with Hank von Helvete, and I think he adds more beauty to the band on stage, but he has also evolved a lot, like as a guitar player, I think. And he comes up with a lot of fresh ideas for us as well. So yeah, it's great to have him back. Awesome. It feels like he never left. You know, he's still asking, where can I put the hair straightener? You know, all right, he's back.
he's definitely back. He's definitely back. Now, I mean, this band has been around for, well, I guess longer than 20 years, but you did your first album in 2002. So, and I know you've been with the band since 2003. So it's been 20 years. Did you think that 20 years ago you'd still be doing this?
No, we never had a plan. You know, we've seen one album ahead. No, I don't think any one of us would have thought that we would continue doing this, but nobody probably thought that we wouldn't. You know, it is, yeah, it feels crazy to think back that it's 20 years since I joined the band. It doesn't feel that long.
No, I bet. I bet.
It makes me feel old. So.
I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I mentioned something about like a couple of years ago, and then worked out it was like 13. And I went, hang on, where did that time go? You know, just flies, man, just flies. What about? I mean, I know, like, you know, we talked. I joked about the "Everything Destroys You" album title. It's you know, such a positive title, and you've had the perfect cult and things. And I know Whiplasher does a lot of the writing. But what about your personal philosophy? Because I know that Cat said when he left that there was more to life than death, and that does seem to be a bit of a reoccurring theme. But your personal philosophy, I mean, if I turn the camera slightly this way, am I going to see a wall full of Nietzsche books, or you know, what are you into?
No, I'm fairly simple. I like, you know, I love my vinyls, I love my music, I love my guitars, I love, you know, my family and stuff like that. But uh I don't think I follow my own philosophy very well because I would like to make most of every day in a way. But uh, I think it is important to, you know, what we're kind of saying on this album with Everything Destroys You is that, yeah, everything is going to hell. Everything is not working right now. You know, social media is destroying you. You are destroying yourself. No matter what you do, it's going to kill you. But as long as you know that, make sure you have some fun while doing it. So I think it's just make sure you have fun and stay with your loved ones, and you know, just and turn off the news sometimes, maybe, and lay down and put your phone away. I think it's a mental note. It's a mental note to myself, but I know every time I do that, if I work on my, you know, motorbike or whatever, just cleaning a carburetor, that makes my head clean again, you know, as well. So yeah, it's important not to be briefed with all the latest info immediately all the time. Sometimes slow info is good as well.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Just go for that walk, leave the phone at home, and enjoy it, man. And get some headspace.
Yeah.
Get some headspace. Yeah, 100%. You mentioned your vinyls. What's the latest? What's the latest in your collection? What have you added recently?
Well, I went to a show the other day with David Eugene Edwards, the singer in 16 Horsepower and Woven Hand. Kind of really depressive country Americana style. It was a great show, just him and an acoustic guitar and some weird sounds. So I bought a Woven Hand record from him in the merch. And before that, it was probably a jazz album with a Swedish artist called Daniel Bingert. I eat all kinds of music, you know. It's like one day I buy a Dissection album, one day I buy a jazz record, you know. It's yeah.
Important to keep the diet varied, eh?
Depending on it. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Ah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Skinny, any I know you didn't have a great experience last time you came to Australia. We're one skip further away in New Zealand. Any plans to revisit this part of the world?
Yeah, we always hope so. We like it really a lot down there, and we would love to come to New Zealand one day as well. You know, it's been the island or the islands that has evaded us, and yeah, it would be amazing. It is a long flight, no matter what. But if you get the time to adjust, it's amazing. We have always had a good time.
You got to break it up, man. Go to Japan first, and then maybe, you know, go to Australia, and then come to us, and then you could break it up into shorter flights.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there we go. Well, Everything Destroys You. It is out now, and fantastic record, man. Fantastic record. I know that you're very proud of it. I've really enjoyed listening to it the last few days as well, man, and I'd love to see it live. So, Skinny, thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.